I mean, the dude just brought the Timberwolves past the first round for the first time in 20 years. Since Kevin Garnett was sporting that Minnesota jersey, Anthony Edwards, the best show in sports. The Miami Marlins also put on a good show for you out at Lone Depot Park. The Miami Marlins, they've got the Nationals tonight. 6:40 first pitch against the Nationals. The Marlins trying to stack up some wins in this 2024 season. Go check them out. Go check them out because the Miami Marlins, it's not just about the show they put on the field. It's about the ambiance, the environment, and being able to be in that air-conditioned ballpark and also enjoy some really fun things, including $5 beers on a Friday, some fiery eats. I love Fiesta Fridays with the Miami Marlins. I love the vibe that it gives off because, again, it's a great time on a Friday night. You get to watch some ball, but then also anytime you can step into any sporting event or arena and it's $5 beers, that's worth your stay. That's worth the price of admission. Then there's also Legacy Saturdays, and then, again, just any night at Lone Depot Park. Come and join your Miami Marlins all season long. Get loud, show off the colors of your culture, and make sure you bring some flags and instrument to some of those games as well. You're going to taste the flavors of the 305, which is so multicultural. And if you want to jump in on that fun and that party and get in on the action, get your tickets today at marlins.com/tickets. Marlins.com/tickets. Again, Marlins Nationals tonight. And, again, I told you, C-Cat, there's only so many ballparks I've been to. Mm-hmm. Nats Park is one.
And
as well as Lone Depot.
They're taking away a lot of division games in baseball. So when you have a divisional opponent in town, it's a big deal. Those games matter even more so this year than they did last year.
Root them on before Jazz Chisholm starts blaming the Marlins fans the way Joel Embiid was doing with the Sixers. Yikes. Ooh. Bad move. Always a good move is bringing in who we have on the lines right now. Mike Tannenbaum, former NFL GM of the Jets, former executive vice president of your Miami Dolphins. And then Mike Tannenbaum spent this weekend in Detroit. He spent it covering the NFL draft for ESPN Radio. First and foremost, Mike T, you was out in the D, man. How was it out there?
Yeah, it was fantastic. What a great job the city of Detroit did, and the passion that they have, Theo, for football is incredible. You know, I don't know what to call it. Like, it was like a festival, a concert. It was a whole bunch of things wrapped up into one, to be candid. But I thought it was great for the NFL and certainly great for the city of Detroit. It was a great 3 days.
It looked fun from the outside, and 8 picks in, we all got the very fun that we really know and love with the NFL draft. When the Atlanta Falcons decided to go up and go up and get Michael Penix Jr. out of Washington, bringing him into that quarterback room with Kirk Cousins. I've heard you talk about this a little bit. As a former GM of the Jets, you had a similar situation when you had Mark Sanchez and you went out there and got Tim Tebow. How the heck do the Falcons figure out fall camp and managing these relationships now? Because a lot of people are talking about, what are they trying to do, build for the future or win now? I'm curious on the relationship side of things, how they're going to be able to go into the fall on one accord here.
Yep. I think they made a huge mistake, and I remember when we went through it with Mark Sanchez and Tim Tebow, as you mentioned, I was mad at Mark Sanchez for being mad that we did it, and it turned out he was right and I was wrong. It was a mistake for us to bring Tim in at the time. We had a good young quarterback that was developing nicely, and I think you have two quarterbacks, Theo, in my opinion, that really neither one wants to be there. Kirk Cousins rather be in a place like Las Vegas where he doesn't have anybody looking over his shoulder. And you have somebody like Michael Penix who's really in a race to get to his second contract. Your second contract is where you get real generational wealth, $50-55 million a year. So I think it's a situation where, candidly, if both quarterbacks were answering questions honestly and not taking the high road, I don't think either guy really wants to be there.
Now, if the Falcons answered honestly, do you think this had more to do with their love and belief in Michael Penix Jr., or do you think they were looking at the defensive options because they had their pick of the litter in this draft with defensive players? And as we saw the rest of the NFL do, it took 15 picks to see one defensive guy go off the board. Everybody's problem is Atlanta didn't get a defensive guy. Was it that they just didn't like what they saw and Penix was a better option?
I don't know. They were wrong because you don't take a quarterback after you give another one, $100 million 6 weeks ago. Again, like with Jared Goff, he got $100 million extension, and then, a year later, they traded him to Detroit. That was a performance-based decision, whether he liked it or not. But you can't give a guy $100 million and not try to max out his value. And again, go take a defensive player. Even if you took Roma Dunze, you're going to get more production out of that pick. I mean, you got $100 million to try to go win a division with a quarterback. You haven't had a winning record since 2017. You were 21st in the league in sacks. The last time you had a double-digit player in sacks was 2016 and Vic Beasley. Like, explain to me how we're better taking the 8th pick and having him sit for a couple of years.
And to be honest with you, I'm lockstep with you. I thought it was a bad pick then. I have a lot of Falcons fans in my life who are trying to encourage me that they have some kind of plan in place. I just would love to see it. Mike Tannenbaum joining us here on Theoretically Speaking. What about the draft for you was a better fit, like a more perfect fit, a good draft on the team side and also a good situation? And I have an inkling that it's going to be J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings, especially because they didn't have to jump up and do it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's J.J. McCarthy. I think he comes in, he plays. They got a great supporting cast, led by, most notably, the best receiver in football in Justin Jefferson, amongst others, 2 good tackles. So I think he's in a great situation, and I think that played out perfectly. And again, I don't think this isn't – if they had said, hey, we're going to go with Michael Penix going back to Atlanta for a second, and they took the $100 million and signed Donnell Hunter, I would be applauding it. It's just – when there's limited resources, Theo, you got to use them as judiciously as possible.
Right. Salary cap sport. And roster management matters. Nobody knows that more than Mike T, who sat in those seats as a general manager and also a former executive with the Miami Dolphins. For you particularly, I look at Jordan Travis getting drafted to the New York Jets at 171 overall. And, of course, that's not a spot where Aaron Rodgers is looking over his shoulder with any kind of threat. But as a guy here from Palm Beach County, and we got Jordan Travis, a Benjamin product, when you look at his tape, when you looked at him coming into the draft, and you look forward with the Jets, is there an opportunity for the former Florida State quarterback to be the succession plan for Aaron Rodgers, or is this just a flyer, a guy that they're kind of trying to see what they have out of?
Yeah, I thought that was a great pick. I really like Jordan Travis, and more importantly, I really like what Mike Norvell said about Jordan Travis's character. So to me, when a guy like Tyler Huntley pops up and kind of comes out of nowhere from time to time, you're like, oh, tell me about that story. Like, it starts with somebody, like Jordan Travis. I love that pick. And, there's no downside to it. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, no harm, no foul. From Jordan Travis's perspective, hey, you sit for a year, you learn from a Hall of Famer and Aaron Rodgers and get yourself healthy. So I love that pick really from both sides. And to me, when I was at the Jets in particular, Theo, we would try to have a veteran at every position group. Jason Taylor, LaDainian Tomlinson. And part of it was we wanted the guys that were young to learn from those guys. And that's what Jordan Travis needs to do with, Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Having a mentor in the room with you at all times, it got to be helpful. And a guy like Jordan Travis, he feels like he has that mentality, that work ethic. You saw how good he got from the beginning of college to the end. I'm excited to see what the Jets are able to do with him. Just keep Nate Hackett away from him, if I had to say something about it. Travis Kelce extension with the Chiefs. What does that tell you? We just learned about him getting a 2-year extension. I know that we haven't found out much about the guaranteed money or anything else around it, but a lot of people were considering or wondering if Kelce will be retiring after this past Super Bowl. He obviously wants to run it back with Mahomes, go for that three-peat. But, him getting that extension right now, does that mean they're done looking for pass-catching options in Kansas City right now?
I don't think so. I think that's apples and oranges. I'm sure this was a little bit of, paying somebody for what they were, for like past services. And obviously he's been a great player, and I'm sure this was more of a thank you than anything else.
Right, which can make sense. And obviously, if you're the Chiefs, you want to take care of the guys that have gotten you there. Mike Tannenbaum, former boss of the Dolphins and GM of the Jets, knows everything about that. Is there anything from the draft that stood out to you that nobody's really talking about right now, something that kind of missed the headlines because it wasn't the Cowboys or the Jets or a quarterback? Because through 3 days, more guys got picked than just these offensive guys that are leading off all the shows.
Yeah, I think what the 49ers told us was that we're trading either Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk. They didn't draft one. They drafted two corners, two receivers. And I think what they're saying is, hey, we can't pay Brandon Ayuk what he wants, so either we're going to have to, trade one, in Samuel or Ayuk or figure out something. But I think them taking two wide receivers, Theo, told us a whole bunch.
And if you're a GM right now in the NFL, one of the other 31 teams, who's more attractive right now? Ayuk, if you trade for him, you have to pay him. Debo's in the middle of that deal. They're both also like totally different players. Like who impacts winning more to you if you're a GM in a different building?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think beauty's in the eye of the beholder. I think Ayuk's one of your classic, incredible athletes, great run after catch. You think about the deep threat of this guy could make the one or two game-changing plays because he's a great athlete. And then when you think about Deebo Samuel, you're talking about maybe the toughest player in the NFL. Nobody wants to tackle him. Nobody wants to get after him in space. He's can do it, literally do it all. So, to me, it's apples and oranges. But if I'm the Buffalo Bills and the 49ers say, well, who are you interested in? My answer is yes.
Either one works. Yeah,
because they make me a heck of a lot better today than without. Now all of a sudden, Keon Coleman is where he should be, meaning he's part of the pipeline. He's there, but he has a ways to go because obviously he's a rookie. I think that's just the more appropriate way to try to build it, the right way long term.
Now you mentioned the Buffalo Bills, and obviously the Chiefs won the Super Bowl these past 2 years without a standout wide receiver. The Bills and the Chargers kind of don't really have that right now. They're up there at the top of the AFC trying to compete with the Chiefs. Now, at first when I saw all the Bills moves this offseason, I assumed they might be waving the white flag. But apparently it feels like you're saying that they aren't. What do you gauge from the team-building strategy with both of those teams having franchise quarterbacks in Herbert and Allen, but them also kind of devaluing or de-investing in the receiver position right now?
Yeah, I think we just got to give it a grade of incomplete, Theo, because $10 million of Tre'Davious White's salary comes off their cap after June 1st. So if I'm talking to the 49ers, if I'm the Bills, I'm waiting until June 1st to do anything. So I know it kind of looks that way today, and maybe that's where we wind up, but let's give it a little bit more time.
And last one here for Mike Tannenbaum here on Theoretically Speaking on a Monday, as always, coming right off of his draft duties for ESPN Radio. I'm curious from the GM perspective. Now, we've all been able to do it on a Madden or whatnot, and we all dream of being in that seat. But what feels better as a general manager? Being able to stick at your pick and the guy that you've been wanting falls to you, or if you're on the clock and you have a team calling up to trade up with you with a really good package and you have maybe 3 or 4 guys on your board that you would be fine picking at that spot. You're not necessarily sold. So which one feels better? What's more euphoric for a GM? A guy falling to you, or you having multiple options on your board and having the ability to trade back for that Godfather package or at least some more draft capital down the line?
Yeah, I'm sticking and picking. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's take the win and go home.
Mike T, appreciate your time. Thanks for all the work through the draft coverage. I love the ESPN radio work with you and Carlin in the D.
Oh, thanks. It was a lot of fun. Thank you so much.
Sticking and picking. I got to like that out of Mike T. He's sticking by his guns there. Always good on Mondays. We'll catch him next Monday. And his appearance is always courtesy of Eisner Amper. Now, we've got some exciting stuff coming to South Florida. F1 Miami. F1 Miami is coming to South Florida. We've been talking about it. It's coming soon, May 3rd through the 5th. And we have an opportunity for you to win some tickets. All right? This is exciting stuff. 2 tickets, general admission, a value worth up to $300, and all you got to do is answer a trivia question, and you could be right there at races on Friday. An F1 Miami giveaway right now, some trivia, so tap in, and all you got to do is answer this question. We saw that Travis Kelce notched his extension with the Kansas City Chiefs. This past postseason, Travis Kelce eclipsed which Hall of Fame wide receiver for postseason receptions? Travis Kelce has 165 postseason receptions. Which Hall of Fame wide receiver did he surpass this year in receptions? The first caller to get that right, 888-760-3776, 888-760-3776. The first caller to get that right gets 2 campus passes, which give you general admission to F1 Miami this weekend. Which Hall of Fame receiver did Travis Kelce pass in postseason receptions by getting up to 165? And I'll give you a hint. They call him the GOAT. They call him the GOAT of wide receivers. Is that a fair enough hint, C-Cat?
I think it's fair enough.
888-760-3776. We take your calls after the break. A little trivia on Theoretically Speaking and F1 Miami tickets in the past. 888-760-3776. Tap in right now. He's C-Cat. I'm Theo Dorsey. We're Theoretically Speaking on ESPN 106.3.
Live from the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Call 1-800.